Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting for Wednesday, December the 11th. This will be the last regular council meeting for the year. So I want to start by telling you that this meeting is being audio, video recorded, and live streamed on the Towns of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And if you'd like more information about that bylaw, you can contact the clerk's office. I'd also like to ask just a few housekeeping things. If you haven't been here before, the washrooms are to my left and just around the corner. And also, if you have an electronic device with you, if you could please set that on silent so that it doesn't disturb the meeting, that would be very much appreciated. We have a number of items to get through tonight, but we'll start first with our land acknowledgement. Councillor Saunders, please.
Thank you. The town of Innisfil acknowledges that the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty lands that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first people of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe people of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewa of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work with them on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. We'll now move to open forum. We have one virtual participant who has signed up for open forum and one person that is in-house tonight. So we'll start, please, with Evan Sugden. Evan is going to speak to us regarding the bylaw on tonight's agenda. And you have 2 minutes, Mr. Sugden, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff. My name is Evan Sugden. I'm an associate in registered heritage.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure if it's on our end or your end, but you're just coming off a little quiet, and I'm not sure everybody can hear. So if you could just bear with us for just a moment.
Maybe this is better. I'm holding my mic closer. Is that any better?
I'm getting some nods and some shaking, so. We're just getting our IT set up here. Apologies.
Not a problem.
Evan, can we get you to say a few words?
Good evening. Can you hear me better?
Yes, much better. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Sugden.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council and staff. I'll keep this very brief. You've heard from me at the last council meeting regarding my clients, AA1 Inc., who are the owners of the property at 3523 25th Side Road in Innisfil. We're here before you today to offer an alternative approach. We maintain the objection to the proposed designation of the subject site under Part 4, Section 29 of the Heritage Act, but believe that there is, we'll call a balanced compromise to some of the things I think the town is interested in with respect to the stone house on the site. And this is an option that I've done before and is a viable option. And so what we're proposing as instead of a designation is a temporary heritage conservation easement agreement. This is a document that's agreed to by both the owner and the town. It was registered on title and essentially would protect the stone house from the date it's signed and in perpetuity, the same way a designation bylaw does. The intent here, though, is that it is temporary and eventually the house would be demolished. That's sort of the bottom line with this. However, what it does allow the town to do is it ensures that the town gets commemoration. And so what we would propose is that the town enter into this agreement, and as a condition of draft plan approval of a future subdivision, which we've included in our letter, the town could instill conditions that would require documentation and salvage and a commemoration strategy. The commemoration strategy could do things, for example, using the granite and the stone on a entrance feature or public art display, or using some of the wood to make a public bench, in addition to a commemorative plaque that would talk about the stone house and the history of the site. What this does is it still allows the owner to have the house removed and makes way for probably a bit more of efficiency in terms of the subdivision design and bringing more homes a little bit faster. It also guarantees that commemoration to the town and a bit of a flexible approach here instead of just straight designation. So that's I've set out everything in the letter that I sent in to the clerk last night, along with an alternative motion for staff that's written out exactly in a manner that staff can approve it as an alternative without having to have refinements to it, should you wish. And we would ask that you consider that alternative motion and alternative option tonight. And thank you so much. And for your reference, this is with respect to item 8.2 on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sugden. And I wanted to let you know that every member of council also received a copy of your letter. Thank you. The next item on open forum is Diane Nevins. And I'm sorry, I can't get the whole last name. Thank you. And it's pickleball. So whenever you're ready, Diane, please come to the mic and you have 2 minutes.
So another lady named Cindy who runs her own little tennis program and group came up to me and let me know that there's been a request to remove 3 of the 4 tennis courts at Innisfil Beach Park. Apparently there's a request to change 3 of those courts to pickleball tennis courts and therefore create 6 pickleball tennis courts and leave only one tennis court. Now I've been the town tennis pro for close to about 20 years. When we first redid those courts, the town of Innisfil had the foresight to basically include pickleball lines on those courts. Now recently, some of them need to get repainted, and they haven't been. I guess whoever the contractor wasn't able to put the pickleball lines on all 4, repaint the lines on all 4 courts. So currently they're on 2 courts. So to be honest, I was quite flummoxed. I find it quite astonishing that someone would want to, someone who I know, I played tennis with, who plays tennis on Monday nights. And on Monday nights, it's hard to even get a court. Like when I have my tennis programs at 6 o'clock, I get there around 5:30 sometimes just so I can try and actually have a tennis court for my students to play on. And I do 3 hours worth of tennis coaching on Mondays alone. So our courts are used a lot. There has been an increase in pickleball players. There's no doubt about that. I would like to propose an alternative. One is that you have courts on Jan's Boulevard, and those courts which are there are 2 tennis courts on Jan's Boulevard, which would come up with 4 pickleball courts. The other alternative is that right next to the tennis courts at Innisfil Beach Park, there used to be when I first moved to Innisfil, it was mainly a soccer town. So there were 2 mini soccer goalposts and little kids were playing their soccer matches. That ground is nice and flat. And having seen the pickleball courts at St. Pete's, where my son goes to for high school in Barrie, they got 4 pickleball courts there. That would again be a nice flat area where some pickleball courts could be built. And I think that would be a viable idea. Again, of course, it depends on funding and so forth. But you have a flat area where the pickleballers could coexist with the tennis players. So that would be my second suggestion. But otherwise, to be honest, I was quite surprised when I found out who it was that was making the presentation, because I thought this was some out-of-town person who is, in my opinion, quite arrogant to, want to take 4 tennis courts, replace 3 tennis courts and put them in, and make 6 tennis courts outside. So I thought this is some out-of-town person. I'm quite shocked. But anyway, apart from that, these are my solutions that I'm proposing. Otherwise, what we should do is there aren't that many, compared to Barrie, which is a hotbed for pickleball, there really aren't that many people playing pickleball in the town of Innisfil. So I'm a supply teacher. So in the summer, I'm basically free.
Please,
So,
2 things. First of all, you've gone
Sorry.
past your 2 minutes, so I'm going to ask you
Sorry.
to wrap up. And
Thank
I'd
you.
ask anybody in the gallery to please respect everyone who has an opinion. Thank you.
I was just saying, so in the summer, I'm actually free in the days and the evenings. So I'm at the tennis courts a lot doing my private coaching and so forth. And so I have seen more pickleballers playing, but I'd say compared to Barrie, we're certainly not anywhere near in that league. But like I say, I think the proposal, what they initially had, the idea of the foresight was to have pickleball lines on all the 4 tennis courts, which allows the pickleball players to play at the same time as tennis ball players is the ideal solution.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
And that ends our open forum. So we'll now move into item 3, which is approval of the agenda. You'll notice on the screen that there is a requirement for a 2/3 majority to change the agenda to include special council meeting minutes dated the 4th and the 6th, 2024. They were emailed to you earlier today, so I'm going to ask members of council if you've had the opportunity to review the minutes of the 4th and the 6th. The reason we want to add them here tonight is so that anybody interested in digging into the details of what was said during the 2 full days of budget deliberation, they would have that opportunity because the minutes would be appearing in this agenda. So is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to review the minutes from the budget meetings on December 4th and 6th? So with that, I'll call for a motion to add those minutes to this agenda as item A4. Moved by Councillor Zanella, seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And now recommendation that the contents of the agenda as amended for December the 11th be approved. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Constantine, all those in favor? That is carried. So now we have an agenda that's been approved. I'll ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest on any item on tonight's agenda. Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you during the discussions and the debate tonight, please let it be known at that time. Next is item 5, and it's presentations and petitions. I'm sorry, I have a bit of a retainer in my mouth. If I'm slurring a bit, I apologize. And I'd like to ask for Erasmo Giancola, please, to come up and present the petition. And Mr. Giancola, you have up to 10 minutes, and then council may have questions or comments.
I would like to thank Your Worship, Lynn Dolan, Deputy Mayor Ken Fowler, and members of the council for giving me this opportunity to speak here tonight and address a very important issue to many Innisfil residents. We need pickleball courts here in Innisfil. The fact is, we do not have any. Our concern is that the process of getting them built here is taking too long. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in Canada. It is enjoyed by people of all ages, including many seniors, on whose behalf I am here speaking here tonight. Pickleball is actually the only sport in which most seniors participate. And why is that? Well, it does not require extraordinary athleticism. It has a much shorter learning curve than other racket or paddle sports. More importantly, the sport's social aspect contributes to improved mental and physical health and reduced feelings of isolation, especially among older players who might otherwise have limited social interactions. As you well know, regular physical activity has many health benefits for everyone, especially for seniors. One of which is it helps us live longer and independent lives. This is really important to us. When large numbers of players have access to multiple courts, all in one place, they can meet and play with others of similar skill levels, which contributes to not only keeping them healthy, but just as importantly, to creating a vibrant and enthusiastic pickleball community where they can socialize and make new friends. Just last year, Barrie added 8 courts to their existing 4 at Painswick Park, where my wife and I play, because we don't have any here. Every day, these courts are full with different groups of players at different times of the day. From early morning until about 1 p.m., the courts are mostly used by seniors. In mid to late afternoon, it gets busy with students from the local high school. In the evening, a whole new group of players, most of whom have worked during the day, go there to play, as well as Barrie pickleball members who play their house league games. Barrie has also hosted tournaments there, bringing numerous visitors to the city. I brought some water here because my mouth's getting dry. I should have brought something for my nerves, though. In addition, seniors aged 65 and over and the young people under the age of 14 comprise the same percentage of Innisfil population. It's like 16.8 and 17.5. It's about 17%. Seniors over 65 and kids under 14. However, most of our facilities are primarily for the benefit of young people. We have soccer fields, baseball diamonds, basketball courts, volleyball pits, and plans for a new skate park, a pump track, and more basketball courts slated to be built at Innisfil Beach Park, all primarily for the benefit of young people, which is great. We need those facilities. Our concern, beside the fact that we do not have any dedicated pickleball courts here anywhere in Alcona, is that there are no plans to build any anytime soon. And by soon, you gotta understand, as you get older, we stop buying green bananas. So I recently spoke to the recreational operations manager, Chris Trevisan, who informed me that there is a plan to build a covered tennis and pickleball complex near our recreation center at the Y. If I understand him correctly, it hasn't yet been approved, budget approved. So I don't know how long it will take for this project to become a reality. Many other communities already have pickleball courts and are aggressively building more. I implore you, your council, to take this issue seriously and prioritize and accelerate your existing plans of building this sports complex. It is long overdue. You have already identified our needs. You have already decided on a location. You need to accelerate the process and make this happen as soon as possible. That is the main point that I want to make here tonight. Do whatever you can. We need this facility now. In addition, I would like to address the short-term solution that you have already implemented to provide pickleball players access to our present tennis facilities, something that you have done already. You have painted pickleball lines at 2 of the 4 tennis courts at Innisfil Beach Park and also on both tennis courts at Jans Boulevard, which I recently went to see and it's a great facility. It looks beautiful. Yeah, it was a much better improvement than before. It's beautiful. The problem with shared tennis pickleball courts are many. First of all, the lines are visually distracting to both sports. Secondly, intermediate and advanced players seldom play there because the tennis nets are 2 to 4 inches tall, too tall for pickleball. It depends where you measure, middle or the end. These are not official pickleball courts. But most importantly, when a tennis court is being used for pickleball, it is obviously not available for tennis. At the same time, as it now stands, if all 4 of these courts are being used for pickleball, the 2 at Innisfil Beach Park with lines and the 2 at Jan's, if all 4 of those are being used for pickleball, because you got pickleball lines on them, you've only got 2 courts left for tennis. That means that right now, only 8 players are able to play tennis when 16 pickleball players are using the other 4 courts. I would like to suggest a better short-term solution that will allow double the number of, let me see, where's the next page here? Double the number of tennis players and 50% more pickleball players to play at the same 2 facilities, Jan's Boulevard and Innisfil Beach Park. It involves bumping up your timeline for resurfacing the Innisfil Beach Park tennis court facility, because I saw in your phase 2, you're planning to do that in 29-30. But you need to bump this up till this year, 2025. Please refer to the diagram that I have sketched. I don't know if you guys did get those diagrams. Okay. The present condition of the asphalt at Innisfil Beach Park courts are very rough and uneven. I think if anybody goes there, you can see. I've played there. I stopped playing there because I actually fell a couple of times. Anyway, it's pretty well a safety hazard, but I'm not a safety guy, so don't quote me on that. The main point is when you resurface these courts, you need to repurpose 2 of the 4 at Innisfil Beach Park and build 6 pickleball courts there instead as illustrated in my diagram. Now, I went out and measured it myself, and there's like plenty of room to use basically half of that facility to build 6 dedicated pickleball courts that are actually professionally, like tons of room there. You can even put stands there. Under this scenario, these 6 pickleball courts would accommodate 24 players, up from the present 16 if they used all 4 tennis courts. That's an increase of 50%. And this leaves 2 tennis courts at Innisfil Beach Park and both courts at Jan's Boulevard to accommodate 16 tennis players, up from the present 8. So that's like 100% increase of dedicated tennis courts that I am suggesting rather than what you have right now. No, I lost where I was. Anyway.
You have 1 minute more, Mr.
Okay,
Innisfil.
I'm almost done. I know that tennis players do not want any of their courts taken away, but they already have been taken away when pickleball lines were painted on them. That's not my idea. It's already there. My suggestion of repurposing 2 courts at Innisfil Beach Park actually increases the number of tennis courts available exclusively for tennis. To summarize, my message here tonight, pickleball is the fastest growing sport enjoyed by people of all ages. It is the main and often only sport that seniors participate in. Playing pickleball regularly has many social and health benefits, especially for seniors. We do not have any dedicated pickleball facilities in Alcona. We implore this council to prioritize the needs of seniors so that we are not neglected any further. Please make this your #1 priority and figure out a way to build pickleball courts here in Alcona as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giancarlo. Thank you. I'll ask again if we could please allow people to speak and be respectful of them, and there's no other signs, like clapping is not allowed is what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much. So questions or comments for Mr. Giancarlo? Councillor Waters.
A question more for staff than it is for our speaker. If I could just ask staff just to openly just tell everyone what the plans are for pickleball courts, timelines, just so we get a sense of what we have planned. Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Waters. So the current intended plan for pickleball courts specifically is kind of multi-phase. So the first one would be towards Innisfil Beach Park, would be indeed correct. At phase 2, we're looking at those tennis courts currently, and then design for those will be 27, 28, with construction happening with those on 29, 30 for whatever best need fit that we see at that time. Secondly, from there, we currently just had redone the Crossroads Park multi-court surface. So that was a resurfacing project that was approved by council that was completed this year. Furthermore would be more so towards the Cookstown location at Cookstown Community Park. We currently have a project approved, also tendered out and awarded. So that project's set to begin in the spring of next year with those courts coming online. So that's 2 dedicated courts in Cookstown, probably online in around June to July of 2025.
So for Innisfil Beach Park, we're not looking at having pickleball courts till 2030?
Through your worship to Councillor Waters, that's correct. That it would be looking at the current tennis court layout and design through that phase 2 process. So that design process would be 27, 28 with construction 29, 30.
Is there any opportunity to move that up?
That would be up to us in the budget process, Councillor, not up to Mr. Trevisan.
That's what I was going to get at. Since we're in the middle of budget periods, there is an opportunity to reassess that timeline? Or are there other things happening in the park that wouldn't allow that to happen at a faster pace?
I'll perhaps start, Mayor Dolan. I think, Councillor Waters, we'd have to look at that in terms of the design work that's been completed for phase 1 of Innisfil Beach Park and how we could potentially move up that work. We sort of had a phasing plan in terms of how the construction would roll out. So we'd have to look and see whether there would be impacts of trying to bump up that timeline. So we can certainly take that back.
I just know that ever since I've been on council, pickleball has been an ongoing issue in the town, whether it's been at the Y. And like I said, it is a very, very fast growing sport. So it would be nice to be able to have something that these people could use as opposed to, their children. So in terms of the timeline, so just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said that there's potential for use of the tennis courts on Jans for this purpose. So my question is, what is the objection with taking care of that one particular lot that would give you an isolated area solely for pickleball, that you'd have better parking, there'd be less conflict? What is the issue regarding that, if I may?
Is your question is regarding that we should focus pickleball at Jan's?
Yes, my question is, what is your main objection to having a space solely for pickleball as opposed to having a conflict with the tennis players? What is the objection that is there that pushes the idea down to the Innisfil Beach Park location?
Okay, that's a good question, actually, because I first went to Jan's, as I had noted before. I said I went to look at them, and I observed the beautiful job you guys have done. And Mr. Trevisan told me how much it cost. Apparently, like in the vicinity of $150,000, if I remember correctly. The point is that right now there are 2 tennis courts there. Or if you're suggesting I guess we don't have to resurface or just repainting. Actually, that is a great idea. I never even thought about that. I just thought, yeah, you don't have to resurface the whole thing. That's a fantastic idea. Well, you can take off the nets and put the other nets there, yeah. I actually measured that first and it fits. It's slightly narrower than what we would have at the other one, but I think it is still feasible to do that there. Yes, you're absolutely right.
The reason
And you would be able to put 6 courts there, not just 4.
yes, that's the reason I'm asking.
That's a great idea. I never thought that you can just repaint the lines or something. You're not going to spend another 150 to redo it. Yeah.
And it would give you a dedicated place.
Of course. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll just finish by saying thank you so much for your presentation tonight. We understand and we hear a lot from pickleball players. We know it's a rising sport across the country. We are having a significant issue with our budget this year, and if you are bored one day and all the pickleball courts are full, you can watch our last 2 days of deliberation over budget to see how difficult it has been. And we're going to continue that deliberation on January the 15th. That we can build whatever people want. We can build gold streets if people want gold streets. We can build anything as long as people are willing to pay for it. So that's where we are at this point. But I do appreciate you coming to speak to us this evening and bringing your supporters. And I now ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the petition regarding seniors pickleball courts and having it received. Moved by Councillor Constantine, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask that we take a 10-minute recess. We have an issue with our live stream again, and our apologies to those who are watching online. Mover and a seconder to recess, please. Moved by Councillor Zanella, seconded by Councillor Waters to recess until 7:42. All in favor? That's carried. All right, we're back, and apologies to those trying to either watch or hear online, but we're continuing with our council meeting, and we are currently at item 6, which is delegations by members of the public, invited guests and members of staff. And tonight we have one item, and I believe staff are joining us from Hempson Consulting virtually, and we have Jackie Hall, who's here with us this evening. Welcome, Ms. Hall.
Good evening. Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be before you today. I apologize if my lighting's a little bit off. It's really hard to get the right lighting with how dark it is getting now so early. So this evening, I'm here to speak to you with respect to the amendment that we're working on for the town's wastewater treatment plant. And if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to walk everyone through a very quick agenda. We have a few items that we'd like to discuss today. This is really just an information session to provide council with an update in terms of where we are with the process. So want to provide a bit of background as to why our firm was retained and why we're doing the work that we are. I'm also going to just provide a little bit of an overview in terms of what the legislation requires in order for us to undertake this amendment. A summary, a very high level summary of the capital project costs and what's being brought forward as part of the rate calculations. Then, of course, I'm going to talk about the calculated rates and why they are what they are. And I'll wrap up with next steps, just so that way we're all kind of on the same page in terms of where we're going next and when we can expect things to be brought forward to council for consideration and when we're going to be holding the statutory public meeting and other considerations as well. So if we go to the next slide. The town does have an existing bylaw for the wastewater treatment plant. That's bylaw 100-23. It became effective as of January 1st, 2024. So for those of you who might recall, Hempson, our firm, was involved with the town's 2023 development charges background study update. We did update the wastewater treatment plant development charge rate at that time. However, new information has become available with respect to the project costs. This has been a story that's been happening across the province right now. There's a number of major water, wastewater infrastructure projects that have come in at tenders that are exceeding what has been calculated or reflected in DC background study rates, which has then required an early amendment of these bylaws in order to reflect these new costs that are coming in. What we're planning to do is to actually release the background study, which will provide additional details in respect to what I'm presenting tonight this Friday. So it will be made available to the public for review, and that will begin our formal consultation process as required by the legislation, which is the Development Charges Act. Next slide. So just a little bit of context. This is a very scoped study that we've prepared for the town. Our development charge background studies are notorious for being very lengthy, onerous documents. I think the one we prepared back in 2023 was about 200 pages or so. This study just relates to the one service, which is the wastewater treatment plant. So it's a fairly short and scoped document. Really what we want to do is reflect the fact that the current DC rates that are in force in the town has a current estimate for the wastewater treatment plant of about 134 million. And recent tenders are showing, and what we're basing our rate on is a cost estimate of 285 million. So it's really important for us to get the development charge rates revised in order for the appropriate cost to be recovered from development that's requiring it. There are certain agreements and arrangements that are in force in the town. IDAG is an agreement that effectively has allowed developers to prepay development charges in order to guarantee their capacity within the system for their developments. And so there's two types of rates that we've calculated. One is for developments that are subject to IDAG because they're front-ending their rates with respect to the wastewater treatment plant. They're not subject to interest costs. The idea being is that the town's going to be able to collect revenue and then fund the project, therefore reducing the town's overall interest costs for the works. And then there's also a rate that we've calculated for developments that do not fall under the IDAG agreement, and so they would be subject to interest. Rates are essentially calculated on anticipated development and servicing capacity over the planning horizon out to 2041. Next slide. So just to back up a little bit, and a reminder as to what development charges are very quickly is that it is a charge that is intended to recover growth-related capital costs. It's paying for new infrastructure and facilities, and the underlying principle is that growth is intended to pay for growth, although there's a whole bunch of exemptions and discounts that the legislation requires. So that doesn't actually end up happening to the full extent. There's certainly a number of requirements under the Development Charges Act that we have to follow as part of this process, even though it is a very scoped amendment. The DCs have to be imposed by the bylaw, so we will be amending the bylaw in order to impose these new rates. We do also have to go through the entire process of completing a background study, as well as the statutory public consultation process. So we have to have at least one public meeting, and the background study has to be made available at least 60 days before the bylaw is passed. The amendment and update of this bylaw is appealable at the Ontario Land Tribunal. So if a developer or an individual does decide that they would like to appeal the bylaw, that would then be dealt with and adjudicated at the tribunal. Next slide. This schematic, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Those of you who are involved or were around for the 2023 background study might remember this image, but essentially the legislation requires us to do a whole bunch of steps in terms of anticipating development, looking at capital infrastructure needs, making reductions or adjustments for any sort of known grants, contributions, that benefit that existing residents or employees in the town will receive, and also shares of projects that will benefit growth beyond the planning horizon. After we make those adjustments, we then arrive at our cost that's eligible for recovery, and then we calculate rates either on a per unit basis for the residential sector or on a per square meter basis of gross floor area for the non-residential sector. Next slide. So just to highlight how we've applied the tests and requirements of the legislation to the current cost estimate for the wastewater treatment plant, the current tender and estimate, including a little bit of I&I work as well, about $1 million of I&I work, is 285 million. There's been approximately 46 million of that identified as being ineligible for funding through development charges. So this relates to some of the 40 MLD expansion that is related to development and committed to development that has already occurred. And so that has come off of the share that is included in the DC rate calculation. We've also updated the DC reserve fund balance to reflect what is in the account currently as of October 2024. So about 26 million is available in the reserves and is effectively reduced from that 285 million. We don't have any shares of the project that's attributed to growth post-period, as all of it is needed to service development over the planning horizon. And so for developments that are subject to IDAG, that results in about 213 million of DC eligible costs. For non-IDAG developments, what we've done is we've effectively factored in an interest rate, and that adds about 73 million. So their cost would be 286 million is how we've done the calculation. And so if we go to the next slide, I'll just explain that a little bit further. Because historically what we've done in the town, which works quite well, and we're continuing to do that for the purposes of this study, is that costs have been allocated and calculated for residential and non-residential users based on average day demand factors. So effectively what we do is we arrive at a cost per cubic meter based on those assumptions that I just mentioned on the previous slide, and then we factor them based on whether or not it's a residential use or a non-residential industrial or non-industrial use. So what you see on the slide before you here are the calculated rates for developments that fall under the IDAG agreements or developments that do not. So for a single and semi-detached, developments that are now subject to IDAG would pay just shy of $20,000 a unit. Non-IDAG developments would pay a bit more to account for those interest costs, so that would be closer to $27,000 at $26,796 a unit. On the non-residential side, so consistent with what the town does currently, we levy two separate development charge rates. So one for industrial and one for non-industrial. On the industrial side, the IDAG rate is calculated at $57.18 per square meter. Non-IDAG is 76 cents and $76.78 per square meter. And the non-industrial is 109 for IDAG and about 147 for non-IDAG. Next slide. So how does this compare to what the town includes currently? So as I mentioned, in the current bylaw, the cost estimate for the wastewater treatment plant was 134 million. We've now updated the cost to reflect the recent tenders. And so that has now put the rate at that $20,000 mark roughly for single and semi-detached. Currently, the town's charging about $11,700 for this particular DC service. So that's about an $8,300 increase or a 71% increase for residential development. And then on the non-residential side for industrial, it's about a $26 increase per square meter of gross floor area. And on the non-industrial side, it's about $50 or $51 a square meter. Next slide. So these are now the comparison of the calculated versus current non-IDAG rates. So a developer who is not subject to the IDAG agreement currently would pay about $12,000 per single and semi-detached. Once the new bylaw is in force, the calculated rate would be approaching $27,000. That's an increase of about $14,700 per unit. On the non-residential side, for the industrial, we're looking at an increase of about $45 per square meter, and the non-industrial about $86 per square meter. Next slide. So in terms of our study timeline, we've been working quite closely with staff, and we've already had some preliminary consultation with the development industry on these draft rates that we've brought forward today. We are planning to release the amendment background study on Friday, so December 13th. Very shortly after that, we'll be advertising for the public meeting. The public meeting is proposed to be held in late January, so January 22nd. At that time, we'll have a very similar presentation and we'll open it up to members of the public or development industry who would like to make comments or questions on the bylaw or the background study. And then finally, the bylaw will be brought forward for council approval, and we're targeting February 12th at this point. Go to the next slide. That wraps up the presentation, so happy to answer any questions or respond to any comments that there may be.
Thank you, Ms. Hall, for that presentation. Much appreciated. I also want to let you know that Elizabeth Semenov, who is our acting finance manager at In-Services, is online too, in case there's any questions for her, along with Tom Panic, who is here from In-Services as well, who'd be happy to answer any questions. So, questions or comments? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question about the updated cost for the tendering process. At the end of this whole process, will that lead to the tender going out just to lock in those costs that are identified?
I'm going to call Mr. Panic to come up to answer that question.
Yes, Councillor. The tender has been awarded. We are actually the contract for the construction of the wastewater plant has been awarded. So the prices are firmed.
Councillor Ices.
That's great to hear. Can you give us an idea on the timeline for the project then?
Yeah, so the project is scheduled to start in the new year. We're scheduling the kickoff meeting for the project in the first week of January. Mobilization on site should happen probably within 3 to 4 weeks after that. Project is scheduled to, for the first phase of the expansion, is scheduled to be completed March 2027.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Drotch.
Thank you, Your Worship. This might be an odd question. So if there was a resident building a single dwelling, would that be a non-IDAG DC charge? Am I saying that correctly?
Ms. Hall?
Yes, through your worship. That is correct. So anyone who is not subject or not part of the IDAG agreement would be subject to the non-IDAG rate. And part of that is because of the timing of payment of the development charges as well. So therefore, based on the way in which we've done the calculation, it would be appropriate for us to factor in interest costs related to that payment.
Okay, thanks.
And I just want to make sure everybody knows what IDAG and not IDAG is. So it's the Innisfil Developers, what's the AFE stand for?
Allocation.
Allocation Group, right. Thank you. And the other acronym that I heard earlier that you might not be familiar with was IC&I. If we could, that's for, or I&I, infill and infiltration. Any other question? I'm getting some looks on faces that are still not, okay, we're good. So the idea being that the people that the IDAG group have committed to prepaying their allocation so that we know we've got the cash flow going forward to build it. So that's why it's less. And then the people who are paying the interest are the people who are taking advantage of the fact that other people paid in advance for the allocation. Okay, I don't see any more questions or comments. Thank you very much, Ms. Hall and Elizabeth and Tom for being here with us tonight. And the recommendation is that it be received for information. Moved by Councillor Drodge, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll now go to item 7. This is kind of a housekeeping item that we've got on here. This doesn't impact, well, I'll get a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor first and then explain what it is. Councillor Zanella and Councillor Drodge. So this doesn't impact the budget. It's not asking for more spending or anything like that. It's just putting forward this motion so that if councillors don't have to have a resolution of council in order to go to an event or to be present at an event, you can do it simply by submitting your expenses. All those in favor of the recommendation? That is carried. And next, I'll ask if there's any county council municipal updates, anything that this council sent you to that you would like to update council on. Seeing none. I've got a couple. You have none, Deputy? None? So the AMO board met, the executive and the full board met the end of November. We updated our strategic plan for the next 2 years. We approved a budget for 2025 and worked on a policy, a pre-election strategy in case the board or in case the province decides to go for an early election. The healthy democracy and the workforce development ad hoc committees are hard at work. In fact, I think the Healthy Democracy Group is going to be in Innisfil tomorrow to meet with our electoral engagement committee, and that their work is to try to get more people to run, get more diversity in people that are running, and get more people actually voting in the election. And the Workforce Development Group is working at attracting people to public administration, jobs to fill jobs that are required within municipalities. And then finally, the Social and Economic Prosperity Review, which is a call for the province to relook at the split, who does what. Right now, municipalities are doing things without the tools we need to do them. Homeless encampments is one, healthcare is another, climate change is another, things that we are required to do, like looking to the province to relook at the funding structure between who does what and who pays for what. And that was the Thursday and the Friday. And then the Saturday, the OSAM group, which is a small urban municipal group, met. We met in Collingwood on Saturday, November the 30th. Collingwood is the host to the OSAM conference in 2025. So we just started our planning for that, along with stating our positions on the larger AMO positions. And then finally, enterprises and in-services had their meetings, and most of it was to talk about budgets for the upcoming year. So that's it for me. And now we'll go to item 8, which is our consent list. And we'll go through the items. A1, the special council meeting minutes dated November 20th. A2, the special council meeting minutes for November 27th. And A3, the regular council meeting minutes for the 27th. A4, the special council budget meeting minutes for the 4th and the 6th. And then we'll go to B's, B1, the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting. C1, the delegated authority to the Assessment Review Board staff report. I did have a question about that if I could. I didn't want to pull it, but to you, Mr. Melanishin, you know, I've been around long enough to remember when we had all of these, I think we called them the 440s, come forward. They had to come forward to a council meeting and we delegated that authority. But how long has it been since we've been able to delegate the authority that we're doing this evening? Has that been in the act for a while? And have we had any brought forward?
Through your worship, I'm going to deflect to Ms. Crane if we can, the property tax expert.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Crane.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The delegation to the Assessment Review Board became a possibility to municipalities in 2021. Many of our surrounding municipalities have followed suit for these sensitive types of applications.
Wonderful. I think it's a great idea. I just wondered if it was something we could have done a long, long time ago, but 2021 is not so long ago. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, we'll go to C2, and that's the designation under Part 4 for the Heritage Act for the 25th Side Road. C3, the Municipal Capital Facility Agreement for the Police Services Board lease space. Councillor Waters?
I don't want to pull it, but I just want to ask a quick question to staff. In the budget, we had discussed needed space for operations and the building needed to be expanded. Was this space available or is it not suitable for that expansion?
Director Bowman?
Through Your Worship, just if you could clarify your question?
In the budget, there was, I think there was a DC project, capital project to expand, I think it was the operations building, because you said you didn't have enough room. So my question is, if there's space in InPower, is that space that we could have used for that expansion, to put that expansion off, or was that space not suitable?
I understand. Through Your Worship. To Councillor Waters, no, that space, that was an ideal fit for the police, and we were able to make the connection between InPower and South Simcoe Police, and that was a space that was really ideal for their administrative function. Because of the adjacencies with our yard and our crews that come in and out and our need for our staff to be connected with those individuals, that type of space within the InPower building would not have been appropriate for the space needs for operations.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. I have one. I just wondered, does the in-services have the same, does in-services have to pay tax, or are they under the same exemption? Or InPower, I guess. Mr. Melanishan? Ms. Crane?
Thank you, Your Worship. InPower in specific does pay property taxes as a PILT property, so they are subjected to special utility rates, but they do pay us an annual levy. Whether in-services is rented space or falls under a primary user, I'm unsure. Audrey?
I think in terms of space, it's all under InPower. So in-service itself, I mean, other than, I guess, the plants. And I believe that those are, I think they're treated in a similar manner. And so we do, I think we retain a portion of the education on those facilities. So they do pay tax, but we retain that portion.
Thank you. Mr. Mainprize? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Mr. Ross? Oh, the audios or the videos off again? Okay, so something we can take offline, I guess. I just wondered if there's some way that in-services could get the same treatment as South Simcoe Police, but I guess we can take that offline. Item C4, Fremont Homes subdivision assumption. Item C5, Cooks Hill North subdivision assumption. C6, Fire Services additional capital project request. Since you're here, Deputy, I'll give you a question just to keep you sharp and on your toes. What hall is that additional equipment going to go in, do you know?
Yes, Mayor Dolan. Excuse me. That piece of equipment will be centrally located at Station 1, Alcona.
Thank you. Next is item D1 and D2. That was the development charge agreement that we talked about earlier, and the 2-year progress report for Councillor Ices.
I don't know if I have to pull it, but I just had one question on that, the 2-year progress report. On page 13, it talks about our road rehabilitation program being in progress, about the repair of the roads, and it has a yellow as a health. And then the key activity speaks to the budget. I'm just curious if that health, that yellow health status turns to green just bypassing the budget, or is there more behind that in that report?
Ms. Lee?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Ices. So the health is as shown in yellow currently. We are behind in some of the roads rehabilitation. We reprioritized some of that work to ensure that we completed the projects that are underway. So as we complete the next budget cycle, we'll move back towards that being green, but we're behind at this point.
So if I understand that, then the next budget cycle will attempt to address some of those places where we're behind and quite possibly get it back up to what we're looking to achieve.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Ices, that's correct.
Councillor Waters?
A question on the same report. On page 2, it talks about, it says this year an average of 59% of locations met our service level target. 59% seems on the low side, but I could be wrong. So I'm just questioning why are only 40% we're not meeting our service targets. Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Waters, happy to provide a little bit of context. We started off the grass cutting season with Mother Nature throwing us a little bit of a rainy curveball. So we were off to the start with a rainy season that got us behind. And then we had an unexpected number of staff absences due to illness, prolonged illness. So we were a bit down staff, as well as the rainy weather as really the main pieces accountable for putting us back. There was some equipment issues in there too, but happily those have just reached the end of their life cycle. So that shouldn't be an issue for us next year. So as you suggest, that is lower than we're usually able to meet, and look forward to doing better next year.
Do you have a target for next year?
We usually strive for 80%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that 2-year progress report? Great report. So thank you very much for putting it together. Next, we'll go to E, bylaws. We have none tonight. And F, we have council discretionary grant program application and a recommendation attached to that. Seeing none, we'll go to items G. I just want to speak to these a bit. So G1 was the joint letter with Mayor Leduc to the Solgen regarding financial relief for OPP municipalities. I think I spoke to this at budget, so I won't belabor it, but just to say other municipalities now in the same position as us are also writing letters. But it does create an unfair playing field for us. Next is item G2, which is a letter from Minister Calandra, which talks about removing some of the zoning requirements that we had in our bylaw for additional dwelling units. Excuse me. And then the other three are pretty self-explanatory. Anyone want to pull any of those items? Seeing none, we'll go to the item 10, I believe, which is next, which was the notice of motion 10.1. So we're going to do this before we rise to council. We're going to do it in committee of the whole. So we are procedurally on item 10.1, which was the notice, the motion which notice was already given, which was the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre expansion plan. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to allay any confusion on the part of this is we had revised the procedural bylaw in February about how notices of motion would be handled. And then a notice is given on the front end of the agenda, but when it's considered as a motion, it should be considered under committee of the whole. So this evening, council did not pull any items from the consent list. However, they do need to go into committee of the whole to consider the motion for which notice has been given. And then we would rise and report and then move through the rest of the agenda.
Thank you.
So
do we have to, if I don't think anybody is pulling it or wants to discuss it, Madam Clerk, so do we have to still resolve to committee?
Thank you, Your Worship. Not necessarily, and I have consulted with the CAO as to how we can manage this better in the future with a few minor adjustments to the agenda so that we will be following procedure and make it a simpler process. So we can just adopt the consent list as presented on the agenda tonight and then move into through the rest of the agenda as originally presented.
Thank you. So a mover and a seconder, please, to adopt the consent list. Councillor Drodge and Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. And now the motion, lengthy motion, which is on the screen and you've all had for a couple of weeks now. Any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those, do I need a mover and a seconder then for that? Yes, please. Mover and a seconder, please, for that motion. Councillor Saunders and Councillor Constantine, all those in favor? That is carried. We've had no new notice of motion. And we go right to announcements. And we'll start with Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to start out I know a lot of Innisfil has great communities, so I'm going to talk about one of the ones in my ward, which is Stroud. And Stroud showed its spirit once again this weekend. The tree lighting that was held Saturday at the fire hall was a great success. The fire staff told me they ran out of wings at the end of the night, so that goes to show you how well it went over. I think Santa's lap got well used as well by the kids, and so it was great to see the community come out for that. Then on top of that, on Monday night, the farmer Christmas parade that was scheduled. I talked to some of the farmers involved, and they put a lot of effort into it. They go Thornton on Saturday night, Angus on Sunday night, and Stroud on Monday, and I think they saved the best for last. So they had a great reception through Stroud, and it gave the participants a lot of goodwill for the effort they put into it. So moving forward, on the 15th on Sunday, it's the annual Spartan Pajama Toss game at 3:30. So come on out and bring your pajamas to toss onto the ice when the Spartans score. Also on December 22nd, the Spartans are playing the Alliston Hornets. And on December the 19th, the Silver Club is having their holiday potluck party at the Y. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Councillor Constantine.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ringing the season with Keith Hampshire at Leaford United Church. That will be Saturday the 13th at 7 to 9:30, and the cost is $30. And on Saturday, Big Cedar Dart League will be having a popsicle draw dart tournament, and it starts at 10 a.m. and registration are required.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
This last weekend, was the first hopefully annual social services fair at the Lakeshore branch of the library. Lots of different social groups were there in one room. It was great for everyone to offer help and guidance. Coming up on Saturday at Town Square is the second annual Tuba Fest from 11 till 12:30. On Tuesday next week is the second annual holiday sing-along with special guest local artist Anna Goldsmith. And then coming up on the 29th at 5 p.m. is Innisfil's annual Hanukkah celebration as well at the Lakeshore branch. Also every Tuesday at 3:30 at Lakeshore is After the Bell program, which is for teens. You can play games, get crafty, and learn new skills. And then starting on Friday, running through to the 21st is Lighted Up Innisfil with a map of all the different homes in town that are decorated, raising money for Innisfil Food Bank and Christmas for Kids.
Thank you so much. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. On December 19th, an event called Raise the Dough with Domino's. You can get 2 pizzas with cheese bread for $24.99, and $5 of that goes to Light Up Innisfil.
Thank you, Councillor Zanella.
Thank you. Just a reminder that if you still have someone to get gifts for, Lakeside Dance offers some gift certificates. So if you know someone that you don't really know what to get for, that's a great gift.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders.
The Friday Harbor holiday market will be running through till the 29th of December. As well, they'll be throwing a New Year's Eve bash at the Lake Club and the Beach Club with fireworks to follow.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge.
Your Worship, just one announcement here, December 15th, Santa's Brunch at Harbor House Grill from 11 to 1 p.m. And I just want to take the time right now to tell all my residents from Ward 7, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Many of us have been around town the past little while with the amount of markets out there. We've been supporting as many local businesses as we can, which is incredible. There's a lot of unique creations for people to purchase for Christmas to put under the tree. The mayor and I attended St. Peter's Anglican Church for their free turkey dinner earlier this week. It was really nice to see everyone sit, all ages, just having a meal and just being. It was really incredible. On the 14th, we have the color-inspired Christmas party up in Stroud. Santa is going to make a visit. Yeah. And last but not least, tomorrow is the Lake Simcoe Public School Market, which is going to be held at Lake Simcoe Public School. One other thing I'd like to do at this moment in time, let me just bring this up. As many of you are aware, December 7th signifies the 2-year anniversary of this council's inauguration. We have 5 first-time councillors who've been seated at this table for the past 2 years, while 3 of us have returned for our 6th. I mention this because Mayor Lynn Dolan has achieved a remarkable milestone, having served for 30 years. 3 decades of dedication warrant acknowledgement And I honestly can think of no better way to commemorate this than spending her first Christmas as a grandmother with the newest addition of the family, for these are the moments that truly matter.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy. Yeah, 30 years goes by way too fast, and I'm looking forward to my next 30. Cheers. A couple of items I just wanted to bring up. One of them is congratulations to our fire chief, who's away tonight, so Brent is filling in with him, but Brent Thomas is up in Aurelia tonight, receiving a King's Coronation Medal for his time during looking after the city of Aurelia during COVID. So he was happy to receive that tonight, and we look forward to congratulating him in person. Councillor and Ices and I enjoyed a nice dinner with the Stroud seniors. They always had put on a great meal and happy to include us every year. It was absolutely lovely. Councillor Drodge and I also met with a group, the president of the Cookstown and District Chamber of Commerce. They had some great events coming up in 2025, and she asked me to mention that they're always looking for more members. So anyone interested, even if you don't have a business, they do have volunteers that come out to help in the community as well, and you can check out their website. I was unable to attend the Police Auxiliary Appreciation Dinner, but I wanted to extend my congratulations to all of the auxiliary for all of their time. I'm not sure people are aware that they truly are volunteers in the community. And speaking of volunteers, I want to thank all of the volunteers who are out there supporting all of the efforts to raise toys and food for our community. There's so many of them. I know the Rotary Train is out this weekend in Sandy Cove. The police, the firefighters, the paramedics, everybody is out raising what they can for people that are less fortunate, and that truly makes me grateful. Including our municipal law folks who were out today to give over $4,000 to the Innisfil Community Church for their food drive, and another $4,200 to the Troy Scott Community Fridge Program. I think that's about it. We've got a menorah lighting at Town Square on December the 29th. I'm going to be joining the students at KBS for an annual pancake breakfast. And I want to congratulate the Nantyre Shores Seniors Girls Rugby team who won the Simcoe County Athlete Association gold medal. And I'm looking forward tomorrow night to attending the holiday concert for the Nantyre Schools Band. And yeah, some good news at the turkey dinner at St. Peter's. I won a raffle, and it's a beautiful print. It's actually not a print, it's a painting of the Sinclair Farm, the Montclair Farm in Churchill. And I'm looking forward to hanging that in a place of honor. Finally, I attended the Cookstown Antique Market. They had their Victorian Christmas once again this year. And not to end on a bad note, but I did want to just acknowledge the passing of Roger Johnson. Roger, a longtime Cookstown resident, a longtime Heritage Committee participant, was responsible for having the Heritage Conservation District passed, was largely responsible for that. And his son was a volunteer and is now a full-time firefighter with us. So I'll be attending his service on the weekend. And with that, I just want to close by wishing all of you, staff and council, and anyone watching online, a wonderful holiday season. I hope whatever it is you love the most, you get oodles of it. For me, it'll be rest and relaxation, my feet up, and playing with my new granddaughter. So I hope anything it is that you want, you get lots of it, and wishing everybody a wonderful holiday. We'll be back January the 15th, full of vim and vigor, all rested up and ready to go for 2025. And one of the first things we'll be dealing with is budget. So make sure you get lots of R&R over the holiday. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. And with that, we'll ask for the confirming bylaw and the adjournment at 8:29 PM. And that's moved by Councillor Drudge, second by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone.